My name is Melanie McShane. I am the Director of Industry Relations here at the California Association of Realtors, and it is great to be with you today for our Woman Up Live. We are featuring women who are shaping the future of real estate. So we will dive into who they are and what they are doing. But we really want to celebrate Women's History Month and spotlight women who are breaking barriers, who are challenging the systems and paving the way for more inclusive and equitable leadership in real estate. So I'm excited to talk to these ladies. But first, I want to talk about why Women's History Month is especially meaningful in real estate. As I think any woman in this industry knows, women make up about two-thirds of realtors, yet that hasn't always been the case. We know that when NAR was founded in 1908, there were no women involved. But just 2 years later, Corrine Simpson was the first woman in 1910. And I think that that really marked the beginning of a shift that did shape our industry. It took until 1992 for NAR to elect its first female president. I'm proud to say that it did not take that long for CAR to do the same. But I do want to give a huge shout out to Women's Council of Realtors who were founded in 1938 and have really been playing a critical role in creating access and developing leaders and advocating for women when the doors weren't always open. So Woman Up stands on that legacy, and we are about honoring the progress that women have fought for while continuing the work to ensure women in real estate have a voice and visibility and an opportunity to lead. So I would love it if we could go around the room, and we'll start with you, Lisa, if you can introduce yourself, and then we'll get to the questions. So Lisa.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having me. I was really excited to be here this morning. And my name is Lisa Dunn. I am the managing broker of Von Keith Properties in Dana Point, California. I currently live in Mission Viejo, and I am what you would call a late in life broker. I've been in the business for, oh my gosh, it'll be 33 years this June. And last December, I finally got my broker's license. So you know what? You can teach an old dog a new trick. And just really happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. Sabrina, can you introduce yourself?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am Sabrina Brown. Oh, I guess it's morning, so I get confused sometimes.
Time change.
I'm Sabrina Brown. I am a broker out of Fresno, California, Pink Key Real Estate. I love all things pink. I'm excited to be here on this panel today and really excited just to be able to share. Woman Up is very special in my heart because they actually help bring me out of my shell a little bit. And I will share a little bit about that a little later. But welcome, everybody, and thank you for being here.
And Louisa.
Morning, everyone. Super excited to be with you all as well. My name's Luisa Cepeda. I am an independent broker with Vria Real Estate, and I'm going to share the same sentiment as Sabrina. Women Up was really the movement, the conference that helped me get out of my comfort zone, think for a better future. And it's been a beautiful journey, and I just want this. I want to share this with everyone, and that's why I'm a wave maker every year. So thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I'm going to start with you, Louisa, with our opening question is, what inspired you to choose real estate as your career path? What first drew you into this industry?
It's actually hilarious because I had no idea I would be in real estate. I'm an introvert. I am shy sometimes, and I was working for a big firm commercial real estate company as a marketing assistant. And like the next natural progression was to get your real estate license and start kind of earning a little bit more, sharing with the commissions. And so when I got my real estate license, the particular team that I was on, they said they already had enough people. They didn't want to share in commissions at the time. And I wanted to make good use of the license. So I decided to just kind of see what other opportunities were out there. And like divinely, I found this builder that was looking for sales reps for new home sales. I had no idea. They happened to be in the same building. It was a recommendation from somebody else. They were in the same building that I was working in. And I say divinely because I walked up to them during a lunch break and asked, if they were hiring. Next thing I know, I was being interviewed by the two owners, and that was my door to residential real estate. When I handed those first keys to the first time home buyers, that first time, like that got me hooked. I knew it was going to be a passion of mine to continue to be of service. Yeah.
Love that.
Mhm.
Lisa, what inspired you to choose real estate?
Well, it was kind of like real estate chose me, shall I say. Like many of us in the field, it was a second career. I had a 13-year career in transportation and distribution. In a job, I was the manager of the lost and damaged freight claims department, which meant there was never a phone call where anybody was ever happy to talk to me. We lost their package. We drove a forklift through their computer in a box. We did all, whatever happened, I was the person they came to. Not a fun job. So it was kind of nice. I had a parting of the ways when I worked for Colgate Palmolive, figuring I had a job for life, and they decided that they were going to downsize and centralize their operations and laid 45 of us off. Well, for me, it was kind of a good time because my kids were babies at that point, so I got to spend some time with them. But at some point, you start losing your marbles and you got to go out and engage with adults. And I've always loved houses. I was in my early 30s. I was already on house number 4. I think that I had personally had bought and sold and had a rental at that time. And so I was just a house junkie. And so a new home complex was looking for a part-time brochure flinger. I called it a new home sales hostess is what they called it. And I went and interviewed for that job and they said, great, but the hours don't work. But the power of a thank you card was I sent them a thank you card saying, hey, it was great. Really enjoyed the interview. If you ever need somebody to cover for you, I'm happy to do it. Gal said, you know what? I need somebody to cover for me. Next thing you know, she has me in training. End of the day, she's like, I don't care what days, what hours, you're getting your real estate license. You're coming to work with me. And we had a great mentorship situation that I could only dream somebody else would be able to have that in their life because we did trade-ins on homes. And the day that I got my license, I was handed 10 listings that for a very, very, very small amount of commission. Um, and I had 30 days to get them all in escrow. First day with my license. And so I learned baptism by fire. So from there, career just went on. And that's my
Nice.
story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love that. Sabrina, how about you? What inspired you to choose real estate as your career path?
Actually, when I bought my first house, and it was thinking about the opportunities and flexibility, working with the realtor that we worked with to actually find that first home, and realizing that I could have bought a long time ago. And I realized that there was a lot of other people that were just like me that probably didn't know that there was opportunity out there for them to own. And I thought it became my mission, like to share like the possibility of home ownership and what that looked like when you bought your first home, when you bought your second home, when you bought your investment property. And the flexibility of it, being able to work my own hours, spend time with my family, do the things that I love doing, volunteering. It gave me an opportunity to live my best life. And so, and it gave me the opportunity to help others live their best life. And so just knowing that there's so many possibilities out there. And then on top of that, the impact that you make when you have a career in real estate, because you impact so many different lives. There's so many different ways that you impact people. You impact that first-time home buyer, you impact the investors, you impact, people that think that maybe they will never own a home. You give them the possibilities, you give them the opportunities, and you impact their lives. So once I bought my first house, I realized that I had an opportunity to make a difference for other people around me.
I love that. I love that you approached it from an education first
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, it was a learning because I thought it was hard, and I think everybody thinks it's hard. We all hear the myths. You have to have so much money. There's all these steps you have to take. But in reality, yes, there are steps that you have to take, but the steps aren't hard. And all you have to do is have someone share that information with you and be willing to walk through those steps with you to get you there. And so, like I said, I think that there's so much opportunity and possibilities. And I get bored easily. And the one thing that I love about real estate is, and every transaction is different, every interaction is different. And there's so many different facets to real estate. There's commercial, there's new home builds, there's custom builds, there's anything that you can think of. And I started out with land, believe it or not. I sold a lot of land, and I worked for a custom build company. So I helped build custom homes originally when I first started. And so, and then I went into residential real estate, and I found that's where my heart was, because that's where I made the most impact.
Absolutely. So I'm going to stick with you, Sabrina, and I'm going to ask you our next question, which is, what's one early career experience that changed the way you show up as a leader today?
Ooh, what experience that, you know what? I think it was the fact when I first came in that there were not a lot of realtors that look like me. And so I had a lot of pushback or a lot of hesitation, and with people wanting to work with me or mentor me or train me or give me opportunity. And I'll just say that because it was true. But what it taught me was I didn't need that per se. I didn't need that. But what I found is that I had to use my own voice, and I had to seek out the people that were my people for me, that wanted me to succeed. And so as I lead today, I look at it as everybody has something to share. You can learn from everybody that you talk to. And so for me, I think if someone asks me for help, if I can be of service to someone else, then I'm going to do that, because I always didn't get that when I first entered into this business. And, this business is about relationships and having those conversations and sharing and helping. There's enough business out there for all of us. There's enough opportunities out there for all of us, and we grow by helping others. So I think that initially coming in, not having the full support that I would expect, taught me that I need to support those coming in and that ask for my help. And even those that don't ask, if I can be of service, I will share.
I love that. I love that. That is absolutely beautiful, Sabrina.
Thank you.
Lisa, can you recount an early experience where you realized that the road ahead wouldn't be simple, and how that shaped you as a leader? Because this is not an easy career path.
No, it really isn't. And mine was more of a marketing standpoint. When I got into real estate, my kids were getting older. And, one of the ways that we market for residential real estate is, being a member of the community, participating, volunteering, being involved. And, I'm a believer of the soft marketing. I would wear, I'd show up for registration at soccer day, wearing, a company shirt or something, never saying, hi, I'm a realtor. I'm a realtor, which, we know some people do out there, and, to each their own, it's all fine. But mine was always, how do I show up in the community to show that I have value? I'm a good person to know, and by my acts, you can see that if I'm doing this, on a volunteer basis, man, I must be awesome if you hire me. And one of the earliest experiences was I volunteered to be a regional manager for an AYSO soccer league in Rancho Santa Margarita. And there was a million kids at that period of time. We were like second largest region in the country. And I had 75 coaches reporting to me.
Oh my God.
And I had to keep them, and they're basically all men. There was a couple of rogue women back then, and God bless their hearts for stepping up. But having to learn how to deal with that many people in that kind of a situation, keep them happy, but then be firm. How do I organize this? What do I do with all of these people? And I've got to tell you that many of those coaches I am still in contact with today. I have sold properties with them, and it was just a touch in the community that really it taught me something, because that was when I had to learn to lead. Like Louisa mentioned, her being an introvert. Nobody can say I'm an introvert now, and it's really hard, to imagine. But I was super, super, super shy growing up. First time I had to give a presentation in my previous career, people were making bets in the audience when I was going to pass out because I couldn't breathe. I was not a public speaker. I couldn't be having this conversation right now. But I will tell you, when I had to corral 75 people to listen to me, I'm like, give me that microphone. Okay, all of you, listen up right now. And I was like, I found my voice. I can do this. And that one experience, just all it needs is one. If you're out there in the audience saying, I could never do this, I could never do that, challenge yourself, because that was a challenge, and it changed me for the rest of my life. One meeting.
That's incredible. I love that. And the way it was a part of your business at the same time. You don't think necessarily all of the volunteer opportunities, but it does. It can change the trajectory of your career.
Well, and actually, before we move on from that, I'm going to say also, too, that helped me ready myself for professional volunteerism within the industry. All of that community work I use now to help me volunteer for, NARCAR in my local association.
Absolutely. So, Louisa, turning to you, what's one early career experience that changed the way you show up as a leader?
Um, One of them was what happened when I got the real estate license. It was kind of an eye opener, realizing that I was not going to break into commercial that easily. It was very male dominated at the time. Probably still is a little bit, right? But it showed me that I needed to make my own path, that I needed to create my own journey, create my own path. Another experience was in the corporate world. Um, lots of dynamics in the corporate world when I was working there, and seeing that when you have people around you that are not in alignment with you, it's kind of hard to fully function. And so I I think I was the one that had to overcome me and overcome like not wanting to be known as a real estate agent. When I made the decision to jump into, independent real estate agent, it was a hard decision for me because I did not want to be known as a sharky real estate agent. And then I realized that I had to flip the switch. I had to be the person, I had to be that agent that I wanted to be known. So it was a transformation of sorts. And Woman Up was where I actually it opened my eyes to realizing the potential and that there's a whole world out there ready to support you. That was a huge eye opener and what was encouraging for me. And it's year after year, it's been what's kept me going. It really has. Sharing, like hearing the stories, sharing people sharing their journeys, and when there's a hiccup in my own journey, I come back to those examples and just keep pushing through because I know, if others have gone through it, we can definitely push through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we work hard to bring you all of those stories. You'll hear later. We'll talk about our Share Your Story initiative. We'd love to hear more people's stories. And I'm gonna stick with you for a minute, Louisa, and ask you: was there a specific instance when you felt your voice wasn't being heard, and how did you respond to that?
Um, it was in my corporate years. It was in my corporate years. I was still in the industry. It was real estate, but I realized that I was not. As long as you're an employee, you really can't be your own person. And there were some very difficult challenges. It was like health challenges that I was going through. And I realized that I had to make the decision of whether or not I wanted to continue being an employee. And like I was saying, the the very first conference, the very first WomanUP conference was what propelled me to get out of that. It was almost 9 years, I think, that I had been in that corporate world, that company. Um, it taught me that I could learn from others' mistakes. I think that was the biggest learning for me, that I can learn from others' mistakes and just, know what not to do. um, and so when I started seeing, all of the individuals that were putting together Women Up and seeing what the possibilities were, it really helped me push through um, all of those challenges that had passed before me. It no longer mattered. It was what I wanted to create, and it's been a beautiful journey. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Lisa, what about you? Was there a specific instance before you grabbed the microphone and when you felt like you weren't being heard and how you chose to respond? I mean, clearly you stepped up when you needed to.
Well, that was like the stepping stone. After that, there was no going back, and now I've never met a microphone I didn't like. It's just kind of amazing how we can change. People say they can't change, and yeah, you can change if you want to. And I think that that's really, you have to want to do it. The funny thing is I can't think of a specific incident, but I can think of many, shall I say, micro incidents. And a lot of it had to do when, serving on my local board. I was asked for a couple of years, to run as a director, and I'm like, oh no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I have kids, and I don't have time for this, and blah 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 blah. And then finally, we had a woman AE at the time, Linda Lang. She's since retired and is happy in Florida right now. And she saw something in me that I hadn't seen in myself. And she every year she'd hand me the application. Lisa, I think you should apply. And oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. Well, I finally did, and I ran for the board and I won. But then I was really intimidated because it was my first year, and what did I know? So I kind of just sat there and like a little sponge the first year and just soaked up, how does this work? What are people saying? How does all of this work? And then I'm like, okay, year two, yeah, I can start contributing. But it was just kind of like, well, she's new. Well, it's a she and blah 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 blah. And it took me a long time, but I finally hit a point where it's my voice is as important as anybody else in this room. And I don't care how people talk to you. You know, if your thought is as valuable as anybody else. And once you really step into that, that's when the magic really starts to happen. And yeah, you know, I've been accused of being loud and passionate, and you know, I think that's just called me just getting on my soapbox. But you know, it's just something that you just have to say, you know what? I listen to you. Now you need to listen to me in a very respectful manner. But then people will look at you a little bit different, realize, yeah, you know what? She does have a good idea. Or, you know what? We never thought of that. And that was very freeing. And to this day, every time that I'm like going to the microphone at, you know, CAR for a committee meeting, um, I sit there and say, oh my gosh, I can't do this. You know, my heart's ready to beat out of my chest. But then it's like, I'm just as important as anybody else in this room.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone has, so often I feel like you have an idea or a thought in your head and you hesitate before saying it, or a question and you hesitate before asking. But if you don't, there's all kinds of other people who are just as terrified that aren't asking that question. And it's really helpful when you do, or when you do speak up. Um, because there are unfortunately so many people who just never will. And so I think those of us that are brave enough to speak up, it's really critical. So I know that Sabrina is one of our bravest voices, so I'd love for you to answer this question as well. Um,
Bravest.
what's the instance
But
when you felt your voice wasn't
I would
being
just
heard?
ask like the audience, I'm like, how many of you have ever been in a room and felt overlooked, or have been talked over or underestimated? Like, just show us some love on the screen, give us a some kind of emoji to let us know that you've had that. Because I think we've all had that. And so, I know, especially when you step into leadership, I've been overlooked, I've been talked over, and I've definitely been underestimated. And so, I had to really like self-reflect that if I was in the room or if I was given the opportunity, I was given that opportunity for a reason. And I didn't need other people to validate me. I validated myself. And so when you are given those opportunities to speak, you have to show up prepared, and you have to realize that whatever you have to say is valuable. Whether it's used or not is valuable, because it's your thought, it's your perspective, and everybody has something to bring to the table. And I think a lot of times we are afraid to speak out. We're very quiet. And like Louisa, I am very, very introverted. And most people don't really truly believe that. I'm the one, I will sit in the room and I won't say anything unless I feel like what I have to say is valuable. But if I do feel that what I have to say is valuable, I will speak up. I will not just talk to be talking. That's where you get yourself in trouble. If you want to be heard, make sure what you're saying is valuable and it brings value to the conversation. But just know that you don't have to sit back and be quiet. You have to use your voice. That's why you're in that room. A lot of times we think we don't belong in the room. I'm here to tell you, you belong in the room. And if you can't get into the room, build your own room, set your own table, and sit different women or men, sit anybody in the seats that's going to help you accomplish your goal. A lot of times we are not given opportunity because we are underestimated. But guess what? We don't need anybody else to validate our value. We can value ourselves, and we can value the people around us, and we can bring others around us up. So I will just say this: use your voice, share it with others, and help others share their voice, because you'll learn from them as well. Yeah, I don't think I'm bold. I just realized, Melanie, that my voice does matter. Everybody's voice matters. And it did take someone to tell me that. Somebody told me, why are you just sitting back here not saying anything? And I said, well, I don't know. Everybody else is talking and they don't need to hear what I have to say. And they said, they absolutely need to hear what you have to say. You were brought into this room for a reason. and we expect to hear your voice. And I think that's all the prompting that I needed. So now when I go into rooms and I have something to say, I'm not quiet about it. Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but that's okay. That's how I learn and grow too.
Is it really trouble though, Sabrina?
No, it's not trouble because I just realized, I'm not going to shrink to fit in somebody else's box. In fact, I'm not going to be in a box at all, and I think that that's what we always want to feel like that we fit into the boxes that people want us to be in. We're not in the box. Don't put yourself in the box and don't let anybody else put you in one.
Exactly. So I'm going to stick with you for a moment as we transition and talk about leadership and inclusion. And so, Sabrina, I'd love to know, was there a moment when you realized your visibility mattered, not just for you, but for the other women watching?
Yes, I will, and it's a very distinct moment for me, and it goes back to Women's Council. And I was going to say this is when I joined Women's Council, I really didn't see very many women in the leadership positions that look like me. So I did not think that there was an opportunity for me to be in any type of leadership role in that. And somebody said, I see you being the state president at some point. And I said, no, I don't see that. And the reason I said I didn't see it, because honestly, guys, representation does matter. If you don't see anybody that you can relate to, you don't see yourself there sometimes. And so I said, I don't see it. And I ran for treasurer at the time. And you kind of go up the line in Women's Council, you kind of go from treasurer to first vice president to president-elect to president. So you go in these roles. But the first step is really treasurer. And when I ran for that, I had a lot of support. And just like going through each of those steps, what I realized is that in the time that Women's Council was founded for California, they had only had one other Black president. And nobody remembered that person. I was the second. And so that election was very intense. It was, and I'll just say it was a very intense election. And when I actually won, there were people out in the audience crying, just like I was crying, because I didn't think that I was going to win. But the reason that there were people out in the audience crying, they said, we never thought we'd see anybody that looked like us up on stage. And it wasn't just Black women, it was Latina women, it was Asian women. And so that to me was the turning point, that it really showed me that representation does matter. We have to see others that we feel are like us in those roles to know that, yes, we can do it too. And sometimes you have to be the first one, no matter how hard it is, how much flack you might get, how much stress it is. And just know that sometimes whatever you're doing is bigger than yourself. You're not doing it just for yourself. You're doing it for the others around you that are just like you, that need to know that they can do it too. So I say just going through that experience made all the difference. And it was eye-opening to me. And then the amount of support, the amount of other opportunities that came from that, it was definitely it changed me, and it changed how I looked at leadership. It changed how I look at having conversations with others and recognizing that others have so much to offer, and none of us should be overlooked or underestimated.
That is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being number 2.
Okay.
Thank you for being number 2.
It's crazy because I didn't even know there was a number 1 until I started researching it. So, but that just shows that, no matter what we're doing in life, representation, whether it's women, whether, whatever it is, if there's not representation, and it's not just women, it's any type of representation that it is. If it's somebody that represents who you feel you are as a person, if they're not there, then you feel like you don't feel like you might not have the opportunity to be there yourself. So I would challenge anyone, even if there's no representation on what you're looking at doing or wanting to do, be the first one, be the second one, be the third one. Just know that you can do it. If you set your mind to it, you can do whatever you want.
Absolutely. I'm going to turn to Lisa and ask you a slightly different question.
Good, because there's no way I could follow that. I mean, that was like a
Yeah,
mic drop
exactly.
moment. I'm like, I'm over
Exactly.
here sweating bullets going, I have nothing that's going to even remotely go with that.
Looking at your experience, what first taught you the power of inclusive leadership?
And this is what I was really kind of struggling with because, again, it's more little micro things. And I'm going to use a word that I always say that I'm not going to use, but I'm going to use it right now. On your journey, you come into different things, different experiences. Sabrina's was a very big defining moment, and if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I was in the room when that happened, and it was really friggin' cool. I can't say I ever had a moment like that, because that was something totally to celebrate. That, when that took place, I was proud to say that I was in the room. Myself, though, it's just little by little by little, building upon one experience to the next, making sure that you're looking for the people that they've got good stuff going on, but giving them the opportunity to come out and be comfortable and step forward and have their voice heard. Because, I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty friggin' dominant when I get going, and I know I have to work on that. It's just something, dial it back, Lisa, dial it back. But I try to make spaces for people to do things that they haven't done, for us to do things that maybe never been done before, and bringing the different minds together. And I'm always Little Miss Idea. Probably the most powerful moment was when we created the Deliberately Fair Housing Group during the pandemic, because we realized there was a group of us, and I see Janet Dorsey's on here, and she's one of my favorite people on the face of the earth, and she was one of the original members there, where we're like, what can we do? What can we do during this time that nobody's ever been in before, when we were having so much strife due to the George Floyd situation, and then realizing that, as a realtor association, we weren't really doing much of anything. And we put together a group. There was 5 of us, and we sent it off to CAR on Janet's birthday, which is Juneteenth. And it was saying we need to create an advisory or a disclosure that goes to all buyers and sellers. And we really wanted agents to have to sign their name on it every time, but that didn't happen. Of a disclosure that talks about the protected classes and what to do if you're a victim of unfair practices. And that was the birth of the Fair Housing and Discrimination Advisory that CAR now has attached to every contract that we have. And that was 5 people saying, you know what, we see something that ain't being done and we want it done. And that was one of the fastest things I've ever seen CAR do. We put it out on June 19th, and then I believe it was published in October of the same year. And,
Impressive.
to be able to say, I see something and it's not right, have a group of people that, we all have a common vision, but we're all coming from different places. And to say, you know what, we see something needs to be done, and we're the people that are going to do it. And just don't ever assume that somebody out there is taking care of things, because there's a darn good chance they're not. And with that group, we got the Fair Housing Advisory through. We had 1,700 people in this closed Facebook group where we put on some amazing, amazing video chats about what was going on in the world. And I believe, Sabrina, I'm pretty sure you were one of our guests way back when. And you know what? We did some good stuff. We did some good stuff. And I'm really proud of
Uh,
that.
that's awesome. And I'm going to ask Louisa the same question. What experience first taught you the power of inclusive leadership?
Uh, it was definitely Women's Council for me as well. Um, I was tapped on the shoulder by, I don't know, I don't think she's on here, but Danya Morgan Douglas. And she saw something in me that I did not see. And even though I had been in leadership positions before through NAREP, I think she saw that I was, a go-getter and that I wanted to make a difference. And the beauty of that is that I was able to tap somebody else on the shoulder when I needed to, bring in an incoming leader as well. And I never had seen me running a network as a president. But the beauty of it was, getting having people come up to you and tell you, I'm inspired. I'm inspired to do something. I'm inspired to, join Women's Council. I'm inspired to, be on the board. I never had seen myself as somebody that would have that kind of power. And seeing the melting pot of individuals coming up because we collectively have, such great intelligence and have so much to contribute collectively. It doesn't matter, you know, what color you are, or if you're a male or a female, like everybody has something to contribute. And that has been the beauty and power of Women's Council for me. And just from there, doors open to becoming a CAR director, something that I was not aware was even a possibility. Like I did not know about, being on a board for CAR until I started getting involved with WomanUP and Women's Council. And this was after, being licensed for almost 20 years. So I really commend for, everyone that has come before me and that has led the way. And I think we need to see ourselves more and more in these positions. And that's why I continue to, to be on my local board now and continue to be a director and sharing the importance of what we do is so key as well. Ledge Day for me was a huge eye opener as well. Like that's where I understood the power, the significance of what we as an association does. And I had always wanted to be involved in, as a Latina, I always wanted to be involved. I actually remember sending an email many, many years ago to somebody at CAR and saying, hey, how can I get more involved? And now I look back and see this trajectory of leadership. And I'm trying to bring as many people as possible with me and making them know and understand why it's so important that our voices that are here, that they're heard, and that their contributions are important as well. But yeah, it's been magical.
I'm going to stick with you for a minute, Louisa, and I'm going to ask from your own journey, where have you seen the most meaningful progress for women?
I think the collaborative space, the collaborative, I think the future of real estate is in collaboration. And these platforms like Women's Council, WomanUP have opened up the eyes for me to that, and seeing that we all have very unique backgrounds and walks of life, but we are, when we get together, you know, we can do anything. We can do anything that we set our minds to. And I remember, if I got this far, what was the quote, Lisa? I didn't get this far to, I can't remember it right now, but
I didn't
it,
get this far. I didn't come this far to only come this far.
right,
Is that what I have behind me? No, that's just do the
I
next right
was,
thing.
yeah, but that's what triggered me, the memory. But definitely that collaboration is important. Community is important. That's where I see our future, and you know, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for everybody that has, tapped me on the shoulders for certain things, and I think, it's important that we continue doing the same. Yeah.
Wonderful. Lisa, I'm going to turn to you, and I did change the topic a little bit since we're, focused on Women's History Month, and I think women have changed this industry for the better. So I'd love to know from you what challenges still show up in your day-to-day experience, or what stories are women sharing with you of the challenges that they face?
It's hard to change the corporate structure of our industry. And I think, you have three realtors here where we all basically are with small independent boutique situations where, we're not part of the big corporate drama. I did do some do some time. I make it sound like a jail sentence. In some ways, it kind of felt like it because I had stepped into a corporate role for a year, and to see that the patriarchy still is out there and alive and well in corporate real estate was something that, as somebody who'd been in the industry for a long time, and it sounds kind of weird, but I'm one of these people that I've never really said, well, I'm a woman, so I can't do this or do that or whatever. I've always felt equal to a man any day of the week. I am totally the boy mom. Thank God I got a grandson because I wouldn't know what to do with a granddaughter. I just feel very comfortable in the space of men. So when I step into something where you get that the hierarchy of, well, we need men for this, we need men for that, and usually, white men, and usually younger white men, and that to me was just like, you gotta be kidding. In today's day and age, you guys still operate like this. And I know it goes on at other places as well. And it's not all young white men, that's just my personal experience, that I thought we were better than that. And I was never happier to get back into an independent boutique brokerage in my life, because then I really appreciated what I had, and what I had helped create. And it's about me helping people, not about who's who and who's what. And God bless all the people in corporate roles, more power to you. But I'll tell you, the freedom that I feel as an independent broker, and that I don't have to sit here and worry about, shaping up to somebody else's expectations or being passed over because I'm not, I'm not a man or whatever. It's just like, yeah, you know what? We go out here and we make shit happen. And I don't need somebody to say, well, you need to run it by this person, because you're not this and you can't do that.
Yeah.
You just go out here and you just go do it. And that to me feels the most authentic. Just being able to just go out and say, I am a person. I am a person that looks like this. Where I've been, what I've done may not be apparent, by looking at me, but I don't judge people by that either now. I'm very happy to be out of the corporate world for that very reason, because that's where I think we're still seeing people really held back in the real estate industry because we're all capable of doing amazing things. It doesn't matter who you are, who you love, what you look like.
That's right. Sabrina, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question. When you think about the legacy you're building, what personal experiences shape that vision? Oh, you're muted.
That is a good question. So I would say helping others find their voice. That would be my legacy. It's like I look at me, it took me a while to find my voice. And I think I always had one, but I was afraid to use it. And so if I leave anything behind, the legacy I want to leave behind is for others to feel free to use their voice and to be proud about using their voice and what they bring to the table. Because now I can look back and say that sometimes when I was quiet, I actually did whatever table I was at, I did them a disservice. And so just knowing that when you use your voice, that one thing that you have to say could make it better for so many other people. And so I think my legacy would be helping others find their voice and not being afraid to use it.
I love that. And that is the mission of Woman Up. And Sabrina was one of those to help shape that revised mission. We did realize that not everybody wants to be a broker, but everybody does want to have a voice in this industry. And so that was one of the reasons that we did expand, I think, the Woman Up mission. So thank you for that, Sabrina.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna go to Lisa now, and we're gonna talk about empowering the next generation. And I'm gonna actually ask you to think about, is there a woman whose influence you carry with you, and how does her impact show up in the way you lead?
Oh, absolutely. When I first got into the business, that woman that I sent the thank you card to, her name was Linda Federer. I don't know where she is to this day. I hope she's still gracing us with her presence on earth. I'm not sure if she is. But she took a chance on me. She, again, saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I was I wasn't sure of what I was even getting myself into, but she's just like, oh my God, I got to have this woman working with me. And she made sure I got my real estate license. I started in February and I was licensed by June. And she was my mentor, and she was the 6'2" tall redhead that either you loved her or you hated her, and it depended on which day of the week and what mood she was in and how I felt. But she gave me an opportunity that I thank God every day that I got. I would never be in this business. I would not be sitting here right now. She mentored me for 18 months. I did hundreds of transactions. I can't even tell you how many I did because this was before we had like the computer MLS and all that good stuff we had. Um, but it was baptism by fire, and she would let me know when I screwed something up. I used to have to run interference for her because the new home buyers didn't always want to deal with her, because she was a personality and she was a force, but she also was one of the most kind-hearted people that I ever met. I won't regale you with the stories of the kind things that she did, but she was certainly one of those people that, hard as a rock on the outside, and if you were able to crack it, she was just that mushy, marshmallow, creamy filling on the inside. And she is the person I can owe my career to. And,
Love
like I
that.
said, God bless her wherever she is right now. She was a very secretive person. She would rent a house in the new home tract that we were selling, and she would move out in the middle of the night because she didn't want anybody to know she was gone. You talk about the ultimate Irish goodbye. I mean, she, boom, she was gone. And I owe my career to that woman.
Well, that's awesome. Louisa, what do you wish someone had told you in your very first leadership role, and how did you learn it for yourself?
That it wasn't easy. Um, I know that we see so many individuals that make it look easy. It comes so natural to them. But coming together and like, for example, running a board, um, it's not easy. And I love the fact that I was able to learn from it all. I think no matter what people tell you, kind of like what your mom, your parents would tell you, don't go there, don't go through that, don't, this is what's going to happen. And you still go through it, but it's a life lesson. Um, I'll tell you that I'm very inspired right now by our CAR president, because I feel like she's taken on that role of, it's not about a position, it's not about a title, it's about leaving things better. It's about, taking action. I'm very inspired by her. I can say that for a fact. But it's not easy, but you have to want to make a difference, and it's important when you do step into a leadership role.
Yeah, I love how when somebody is tapping you on the shoulder for a leadership role, they often say, "Oh, it's easy, you'll be great at it." It's not easy. It's never easy.
But it's worthwhile.
It
It's
is
worth.
worthwhile, always worthwhile.
Yeah.
Sabrina, I'm going to come back and ask you the same question I asked Lisa. Is there a woman whose influence you carry with you, and how does her impact show up in the way you lead?
Oh my gosh. That's actually a really hard one for me because there have been so many. And I think I want to give credit to one. I will share Teresa Wilson. She's part of Women's Council, and she was the one that told me she could see me as president one day of Women's Council, the state. And so, and and to this day, her and I are still friends. She still mentors me. And she has this calm to her that she passed on to me. So I have a little calmer leadership because of her. Um, and then also Sarah Sudachan. She actually invited me to when CAR was would travel out and to different areas, and they would call brokerages in to have broker conversations, and they would call these that they have these conversations. Well, they came to my area, and Sarah called me and asked me to participate, and I thought, well, why are you asking me? I'm a small independent brokerage. I'm not understanding why I'm in the room. And after that meeting, I went to that meeting and I actually did not say a word in that whole meeting. I just listened to all the other brokers in the area. And by the way, they were all men. So I was just sitting there. I didn't say anything. And when we left, Sarah made a comment to me. She said, Sabrina, why didn't you say anything? We brought you in here, to, hear what you had to say too. And I told her, I said, I wasn't quite sure why I was even in the room. And she said, you were in the room because we wanted to hear your voice. And that was a kind of a turning point for me that, oh, I was in there because they wanted to hear my voice. So anytime I got invited into another room, I made sure to use my voice. And so those are two women that I could say that really shaped my leadership of how I saw myself and how I continue to lead and share today.
I love that. So we are actually at the top of the hour, but I'm going to ask one final question, and I'm going to start with you, Lisa, on what does Women's History Month remind you to continue doing as a leader?
To remember to let every woman out there know that your voice is just as important as anyone else's, and to step up just because you might think somebody else is doing it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's being done, and you could be the person doing that amazing thing.
Louisa, what about you? What does Women's History Month remind you to continue doing as a leader?
Basically, all, knowing that you're here to make a difference, that, you are here set on this earth because you have something to give. Your gifts need to be shared and they need to be, out there, and that anybody has the capability to do whatever they set their mind to. And, it's important that we continue honoring and continue, building ourselves up as well. Continue with the continued education and just learning from others and continue to push through those barriers.
Wonderful. And Sabrina, what about you?
I'm going to say that it reminds me to just keep going, to keep speaking up, to keep opening doors for others, and to really know that right now, even right now, what we're doing here, we are actually writing history. So just know that anything and everything that we do, it's going to go down in history, and we want it to be make sure that we're leaving something good and for others to follow.
Thank you, all three of you. This has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate all of you taking the time, answering our questions, sharing so much, sharing your stories. We really, truly appreciate